Hi, everybody. This is my first YouTube video, and I just recently joined the virtual pinball community after playing pinball for honestly just a few months, and my family and I kind of falling in love with it and taking a journey from going to wanting to buy a standard machine to a virtual pinball machine. And so now I'm here. And as I've been kind of going through this, I've gotten a lot of great advice from people like on YouTube and on Reddit, and the community has just been absolutely awesome, and the amount of resources that are out there are just incredible. So I was trying to think of what I might be able to give back, and it occurred to me that the one thing that I probably could provide is my workflow. So I've been loading about 35, 40 tables and 42 games according to VPin Studio, utilizing mostly VPin Studio to do so. And I kind of struggled finding a workflow or something that was really going to work well for me. And I just kind of fumbled around for a bit until I kind of had to find it on my own. The publisher of VPin Studio has done an absolutely incredible job of providing a lot of tools that make setting up your VPin relatively easy. But unfortunately, it's just no workflow documentation. He's got a great video series that kind of explains what all the windows do, explodes what the settings do, and helps you out there, but nobody actually sits down and says, "Hey, this is how I load a table. This is what it all looks like start to finish, and this is how you also can get up and running with your tables." So, a couple of things that I want to talk about before we jump in. First and foremost, I'm not going to make any assumptions about the pieces of table that you have. So, I have a main playfield, a back glass, and a full DMD that will be loaded into my cabinet. We're currently working on finishing the build, but that hasn't stopped me from getting to play with all the toys and setting up my system and having tables ready to go. So those are the pieces I have. Yours might vary just a little bit. You may own a topper, you may not have a full DMD, etc. But the process is relatively the same as long as you identify the pieces of the puzzle, the pieces that you'll be utilizing to make the elements of your VPin. I also really like having loading screens and things like that. I know that that's not everybody's bag, and that's cool. But again, I'm going to show you how I do this. Now, there's one other assumption that I do make, and that is that you're going to have a drop-in folder. So inside the settings of VPin Studio, you are able to select a drop-in folder where anything you download to that folder immediately becomes accessible in this window right here. So I highly, highly, highly recommend having that set up. That does make our life a little bit easier. So I've selected three virtual pinball machines that I would really like to have on my system. And I wanted to make sure that I did a scale. So we're going to start with an old school 1977 Evil Knievel build that I want to add because that's a fantastic machine. Then we're going to go through and do a mid 90s machine, which has a slightly different workflow on how to set it up. I've chosen Jurassic Park because my son has been absolutely at my butt to get it. And then I want to do an Avengers machine. And we're going to do this one with and including the PUP Pack so that you can kind of see what I do to load a PUP Pack. So it's three different scales. Now, I hate to say this doesn't work every time. I have some machines that are just not working yet, and quite honestly, I'm not sure how to fix all of them quite yet. So it's a process. Note that this will probably help you for about 85 to 90% of the tables you want to load. For that last 15%, there's options and all kinds of stuff you have to get into. And I'm still exploring and learning all of that, so I don't want to claim to be the expert on that. I'm simply saying, hey, it's a thing. But this should be the fastest and easiest way for you to kind of get the pieces that you need, put them where they're supposed to go very quickly with VPin Studio. If you'd like a setup video, please find the link in the description of this video where I provide the playlist to the publisher of VPin Studio, who again does a really good job of explaining literally every nook and cranny of the software. This is once you are familiar with kind of what is going on and how to assemble a table with the files that you normally need, this should give you the opportunity to set them up very quickly as opposed to kind of clicking around and trying to figure out, oh God, what do I do next? What do I put together? How do I put these in order to make sure that the machine understands? So with that, I'm going to get started. Hope I haven't bored you to death. So, we're going to start with the most basic machine that I'm going to load today. And I do often like the Big Us mods. And so, you'll find me, I'm going to download that as well. So, first thing I like to do is just quickly gather my assets. I will go to each website, I will click to download the files, and I put them in my pinball drop folder so that they will be identified by VPin Studio. Makes it easy. I want the Big S mod to go with it because I often like the mods that he makes. Shout out to all the teams and people, though, by the way, that build all this stuff. Like, this is an incredible community that runs on passion and adventure, and these people spend hundreds of hours of their life just enjoying the process of making these tables so that people like you and I will get in and play them. And that's absolutely fantastic. So when you're downloading a DMD, I like download stuff that has full DMDs, etc. You typically just need the zip file that's going to contain the DMD. You don't have to get the README, and the file that they provide that has resolution is often just that. And quite frankly, you should already have that set up on your pinup popper, so I do like to avoid that as well. So at this point, we have the elements that we need. We have our ROM, we have our back glass, and we have our table elements. And that's realistically the elements that you need to assemble any table. So once I have those downloaded to my folder, I will hide this window from myself. And now, using the all tables function being on that tab, I will start the process. Now, one other thing that I do specifically, everybody's got their own way of organizing. Right now, I'm very simple at organizing. I look at my tables as classic, middle-aged, and modern. What I mean by that is classic tables are something like this Evel Knievel table. They have chimes and very mechanical features, nothing super fancy, no screens, no anything like that. Middle aged, I like to describe as anything from the late 80s to like early to mid 90s. Those typically had more traditional dot matrix displays. We hadn't gotten into the full like DMD colors like more modern Stern machines. And then modern is exactly that, the more modern Stern machines, the tribute machines. This whole thing started for Deadpool, and so like imagine the Deadpool machine for a second, your VPin. So anyway, that's how I look at them. So cool. I have all my assets here. I know that this is the Big Us mod, and if I look at these, that means if this is the Big Us mod, this must be the table. So the first thing I'll do is click install and upload the table. And I want to upload and import. I don't want to erase air aces or anything of that nature. I want to upload and import it to Pinup Popper. So I click that. I let the game media load. Just watch the loading bar. It's a very relaxing process. It's going to pop up with a couple of windows. There we go. Now, a lot of these details I'm actually fine with. I have it the default set to upload to a separate folder and things like that. Again, these are all features inside of VPin Studio that you should already have set up. One thing, though, that I always check and test is I go to my playlist and I'll always put these in testing first. So I load all of my new tables into a testing playlist where I can then go test them, make sure they work, and I will categorize them into their appropriate list. Anything that I don't have working yet, I just leave in testing, and that gives me goals. So we're going to save and we're going to close that. So we have the first asset we're going to need, which is the main table itself. Now among that, we also need to grab the ROM file. Which I regret. I don't believe that's actually uploaded to that window. So let's go make sure we grab the ROM. Here it is. That was him. Oh, Evel Knievel Rob. There it is. Great. Agree. Download. Get that. They do have to be a subscribing member of both VPin's forums and VP Universe. It's just recommended to have all of that ready to go. That way, when you get started, you have unlimited downloads from both of these websites. Both are great communities that people really kind of keep up with, and they deserve your money. It's like $10, and it gets you unlimited downloads for a year to all these elements. If you can imagine paying $10 to have access to almost every pinball table that you can imagine made before like 2023, I'm sorry, but $20 is not a lot to ask for. So we click that, it's going to upload our ROM to the VPin main folder where we have it pre-assigned again through the VP Studio software. Now that I've got my table itself loaded, I can also install the Big Us mod. Now that's going to come up with an upload and replace. It's going to make sure that we identify that we are doing this to Evel Knievel table. We're going to keep everything the same, keep the existing file name as well, and click upload. That's just going to put the new overlay on it. And we keep it in there. And then the last thing we're going to need is the back glass. So this is our back glass file. Typically, your playfield is, your VPX, your main game, is going to be your largest file. Your ROM is going to be the smallest file, as you can see, 3.1K versus 84 megs. Your back glass is probably right there in the middle. So once we install the back glass, we're going to go back into the back glass tab, and we want to pull up that back glass. So didn't come up to the top, that's no problem. We go find it, we make sure it's active, and there we go, we get our loading. Cool. Now, being that this is a classic table, the one thing I always do, first of all, I always hide any edge, the bottom edge. I, again, have a full DMD. I have speakers on my pending cabinet and all that stuff. I don't need artificial looking things inside the software for me personally. If you like that stuff, go ahead. But now that I have this up and in place, I'm going to use this button right here. Now, this copies an image of what's being shown in the window to the media that goes inside of PUP Popper. This will cover my DMD for me, so I want both of those. And then on these tables, I typically don't use DMD position. The reason being is that the DMD, well, it's not a DMD, it's a manual counter, and it's built into the back glass already, so we typically don't need that on this type of table, okay? Once we have that done, we go back into Evel Knievel, and now we need to get our assets. So I'll typically hover over the loading bar really quick. I'll click this, and this will bring us up to an asset manager. Now, this gives me the opportunity to find loading screens, play field footage, and a wheel for my PUP Popper. This has nothing to do with the game files itself. It does not affect your game files in any way. This is more the loading information for the PUP Popper so that you have a preview of the table to display, etc. So I just sit here, I click search. There's nothing available on a loading screen. That's unfortunate, but it is an older machine, so kind of is what it is. This is going to give us our playfield preview. And I do look for the one that says, like, hey, Big Us. Okay, cool. I installed the Big Us mod, so obviously I want it to match. So I just grab that really quick by clicking download. You give it a moment, it's going to pull the asset down for you. No problem. Great. Now click on my wheel, do the same thing. This is wonderful. People have made these elements and they provide them to us for free out of the community. It's absolutely awesome to get to build this kind of thing and have it together. Now, since I wasn't provided a loading screen, I will try to find a place to get into VP Universe, which is typically almost anything you click. Yep, there's a VP Universe. Now, to find a loading screen, I will click everywhere. I'll type in evil. I apologize, I am not the best at spelling, but Knievel, found that off one of my tabs. I'll just type in loading, click enter. Now, it turns out that someone has been nice enough to make a loading screen, a loading animation for this table. So, like everything else that's involved in this world, you literally just download the asset. I'll then go click back into here, go into my drop folder. Here's my file for the open. Give it a second. It'll load its preview. That's what it's going to look like. So now I have a fully assembled table. You'll notice that it's validated because all of the assets that I have told my machine I have to have per table have all been populated. That means that it's validating me and telling me, yes, your machine should be up and running and ready to go. You need to now enter the testing phase, and that completes the most basic table that we're going to do today. We should now have Evel Knievel in the testing area of the PUP Popper. So once I finish up a table, I'll go back to my desktop. I'll jump into the drop folder. I'll just delete all that stuff. I'm going to take Stranger Things out of here so we don't have to worry about seeing those files laying around. Oop, sorry, on a Mac, using a touchpad, not always the best, if I'm honest. This is why I use my desk and my mouse. Forget it. We won't have to worry about it. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so we've got Evel Knievel loaded. We can close this tab. We are done with it. So how do we do something a little bit more advanced? Uh-oh, where'd my Jurassic Park go? Okay, well, Jurassic Park. Okay, cool. There we go. So the next one that we're going to do is Jurassic Park. Now, when I'm doing more modern tables, one of the things I like to personally look for is anything made by VPin Workshop. Everybody, in this community is working hard and doing great work. This team just seems to do outstanding stuff. So if there's ever a VPin Workshop that I can download, I will typically choose that folder, those assets, because I know they're going to get great. I know they're going to look fantastic. I know that they're going to play correctly. So again, we're going to grab our table element. So we need the table itself. We need a back glass with a full DMD, and I do really like this artwork, so that's the way we're going to go. Actually, you know what? This one's really cool from Haunted Freak. So Part of this hobby is just deciding the things you really like. What makes it feel like yours, different pieces of artwork, different ways of loading, different, even menus inside the pinup popper. Everybody's got their own thing. So, um, not sure why we have an unofficial ROM here. I'm going to grab the official ROM from VP Forums, stuff that in our folder as well. All of this just goes to the same drop folder that I've already assigned that lives on my desktop. I assign that inside the options of VPin Studio. I'm going to skip the PUP Pack. Now, I do like to download colored ROMs. This just replaces your DMD with a colored version. It's kind of like an add-on file. And it's a slick thing to have. And the rest of this stuff, as far as I'm concerned, you don't have to grab and you don't have to worry about, because a lot of it can be directly imported using VPin Studio. So now we've got Evil Knievel done. We're no longer concerned about that. We're going to go in here. Here's the VP Workshop table. Going to install it. Great. We want to make sure we're uploading and importing to a new entry. Here we go. The joy of watching an upload bar. By the way, if this is all helpful for you, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm not sure about what direction this channel is going to take, so I make no promises on what's going to happen. I just really wanted to provide something helpful back to the community. But who knows? Might have other really cool stuff coming, as I'm more at the beginning of my adventure than the end. We're currently in the process of building the cabinet. The guts are actually directly behind me. So again, I'm going to throw this into testing. That way I can isolate it from the other tables that I know are already working. That's got my table assets. We're ready to go there. Now, after we install our table assets, we immediately want to install our back glass. No, sir. So we're installing our back glass. We also want to make sure that we have uploaded our ROM. Here's our ROM for Jurassic Park. So we're going to upload that. Now go to our back glass. Here's Jurassic Park, our active. Now, this is a little bit different than the last one. You'll notice that it has that DMD kind of fake panel. Again, I don't like that. I don't need it. I hide it. Once I have that hidden, I click this button. That's going to import the back glass into the pinup popper. I'm going to click this button as well. That imports my DMD into the pinup popper. Now, this is a little different than the last one. This one will have a floating DMD, and I have to assign its position. So we go into DMD position. I use it on the back glass, so this is typically set. Now, for a table like this that has a really defined border, typically just hit auto position. Now, if that doesn't work, you can always click and drag the little green box. You can resize it by clicking any of these squares. You want to make it fit the position that you need it, but the auto button will work 9 times out of 10. So again, click save. That means our DMD is done. Once we've captured the back glass, captured the DMD, and positioned our DMD, our back glass file is done. We can go back over to the main piece. Again, we've already uploaded our ROM, we've uploaded our table asset, so now we just need all the shiny stuff. So again, I like to go into here, I like to find myself a loading screen. I don't like these horizontal pinup popper looking ones, but that's pretty dope. So let's grab it really quick. Apologies, by the way, for my son interrupting us momentarily. I would edit that out, but quite frankly, this is an amateur video, and there's tons of time with loading bars, so we're going to live with it. He's a sweet boy, and he doesn't know that I'm recording this. So again, we're going to find us a table file that we can just, something to show that when you're surfing through, you can see what the table itself looks like. I think that looks pretty good. Fantastic. We need to find us a wheel. Looks great to me. Download and find a wheel. And we hit close. I come back here, it says VR setting is disabled. That's correct. I'm building this for a actual table, so I don't need that, so I'll dismiss that. It says there's no alt sound bundle. I don't often use alt sound bundles. Alt sound bundles typically be for different languages and things of that nature. That's not where I am, so I don't really need it. And that's going to tell me no PUP Pack found. There is a PUP Pack that's available for this, and it's trying to tell me that. That being said, I don't want the PUP Pack. This is a 90's table. To me, it makes a lot more sense without the PUP Pack. It feels a lot more authentic when I don't have it. I say I don't want those elements. It removes that, validates the table, and now we have that table available to us, again, in the working playlist. So that covers Jurassic Park. Finally, we're going to do the Avengers. Now, worth noting, I've not done any of these tables previously. I've not launched any of these tables previously. So again, as I kind of alluded to, I might start one of these and it doesn't work. This is going to be 90% of the tables you're going to do. It's not going to be 100%. So do expect sometimes you're going to have to go back in and find. Now, a table like this has had so many mods and so many things going on. You need to look for something that is original. So all this stuff says mod, 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 mod. But look, this is not a mod. This is an original table, has all the elements that we're going to need. It's a great starting place. So it's exactly what I'm going to get. First and foremost, I forgot to go back to my Finder, remove all the Jurassic Park elements because we're done with them. Cool. So let's go ahead and download this. Looks great. Doesn't require any additional assets. I like to check over here on the right-hand side. Sometimes it will mention, hey, you got to have additional assets, things like that. We don't need any of it. We're not going to use the VR room or anything, so nothing to worry about. So here comes down Avengers right now into my downloads. Per usual, we do need a backglass. This is where we get to choose our art. I gotta say, out of all the artwork I'm seeing here, I kind of think that this one's the coolest. So let's download this backglass file. Full DMD. Now, I did mention I'm going to do a PUP pack on this one. That renders a lot of the backglass stuff not needed. I am downloading it because I will also have a DOF set up for lighting and things of that nature on my table, and I want to make sure that I have all that communication. All the DOF stuff requires the B2S files to communicate to the machine or to hear from the machine. So we want to make sure that, hey, like that is what we are doing. That's what we're following. Okay, we're going to download the PUP Pack. Oh, there's a Mega download. You never know where these things are going to come from. I am not a member of Mega, but I don't download a lot of things from Mega. So this being a 1.5 gig download, we're going to let that kind of run in the background. We don't need a colored ROM because we're actually going to have a PUP Pack. All the wheel art, that stuff is not necessary for where we are. So that should be what we need other than the Mega, which we'll keep an eye on, but we can start loading the table while we wait. So again, we're going to go into the drop. We're going to grab our VPX. We're going to tell it, hey, this is a new table. We're uploading to the popper. Going to watch this beautiful loading bar do its thing. One thing I like about the VPin Studio side of things is you're not copying and pasting names and making sure all the elements are named the way that they're supposed to. That's all happening in the background as you're uploading remotely to your machine. Now, this is not my actual VPin. My VPin has Virtual Pin Studio server installed to it, and I'm able to remote manage that machine from this machine. So it's on, it's behind me, actually, but again, I'm uploading all these files in the background. I don't have to stand over my machine. A lot of people will skip the VPin Studio thing. They'll do all the copying and pasting on that PC itself. You either have to do that over like Chrome Remote Desktop, or you have to stand there at your cabinet and load all this stuff if you're playing on a dedicated cabinet. Other users will have home rigs that just include maybe a monitor on their gaming PC, and that's awesome. They can do all this stuff right there. But I think VPin Studio just makes it a little bit easier. And as I said, I was kind of looking for a semi-foolproof workflow. So here's our Avengers ROM that uploads it to our Visual Pinball X file. And then we need to go back and we need to check on our Mega PUP Pack, which seems to have just completed. So that's good news there. Last thing we need to install is upload our DMD. As I said, we're going to have a PUP Pack in this, so we're not really using much of the backglass file. Let's go click on it really quick. Art looks great, by the way. Again, you'll see the speaker here. Again, we have a physical one, so we don't want that information there. So I kick that out. I'll use this as a screen capture. I'll still use these things in order to get population into the preview, because oftentimes, a lot of times, the PUP packet has those elements built in, but they don't really show up on the preview side of things. So now, this is the weird thing. I'm going to have to go in here, and on the DMD, I want it hidden. And I want my backglass hidden. I want this to be an active backglass because I want the file to load, but I don't want any of these elements to actually show up. And actually, excuse me, this should be visible, but this should be deleted. Cool. That's where we want to be. Now, it's going to say it doesn't have a DMD image. That's correct. That's a decision that I have personally made because I'm going to use the PUP Pack. Now, if we go back here to the Mega, we see that the PUP Pack is there. Now, loading a PUP Pack is relatively easy on these machines, but it is one of the funnier, weirder things. So the way I do it is I like to go down to upload. I tell them I'm going to upload a PUP Pack to it. I go in, I find that PUP. Here's the PUP Pack. I click open. Let's go scan these files really quick and analyze the archive for me. It understands that that goes with the Avengers ROM. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't show the matching table, but I typically will just click through it and I'll do that. This is going to be a long upload process. Might cut it out in the video if I have a moment, or I'll encourage you to scrub through it really quick so that you don't have to listen to me yap. But if you're listening to me yak, I strongly encourage you to jump on the VPin Reddit. There's tons of great information there. People asking questions all the time that you will probably also have similar questions, and it's best to learn from other people's mistakes. You also find cool news on table drops, things of that nature. So check out the VPin Reddit, and the Pinball Reddit's always fun too. I learned a lot from the standard pinball guys, specifically how much machines cost and how much cheaper my VPin is, and being told that it's not a real pinball machine. So, by the way, just a word on the VPin side of things. So I was primed, absolutely primed, to buy myself a Deadpool machine. I'd fallen in love with that, and my wife, in her infinite wisdom, goes, "Okay, sounds great. We'll buy the machine. We have room for one pinball machine. What happens if you get bored when you're done playing Deadpool?" I didn't really have a good answer to that. So I started doing some research and came to find that if you're going to be the owner of one pinball machine, that's all you have room for, this is a phenomenal option for you. This provides you the ability to have tons of pinball machines in your home at your fingertips. Is it exactly like a mechanical machine? No. Does it have a lot less maintenance than a mechanical machine? Yes. And that was the thing that scared me is dying solenoids, bad bumpers, having to replace play fields, things like that. Like that's just not who I am. I am a professional. I don't get a lot of opportunity to sit down and play. I'm raising a child. So there's not a lot of opportunity for me to just kind of futz around. I need to be fast. I need to get to play when I have a chance to play. I want to take advantage of that time when I have the opportunity. So just hey, the VPin, at least to me, is a really great way to go. It doesn't seem to be recognizing. Oh, it's currently working through that job right now. Okay, no active jobs. There we go. Okay, it's not seeing that. I'm not quite sure why. So we're just going to upload the PUP again using this direct upload. It'll now tag it to the matching table. Told you. 99 times out of 100 works perfectly. And then occasionally you get one of these and it's like, okay, why is it not working? So, tell you what, let's skip that. I'll make another video on just doing the one with the PUP Pack, and my apologies if this has been disappointing to you. But again, first YouTube video, thought we'd try it out. Hopefully that's been super helpful, at least on the basic tables. I'll come back and do a PUP Pack once I figure out, hey, why is this PUP Pack thing not working the way I normally see it working? I haven't been loading machines in the past few days. I've been starting with the simpler stuff, so I've only loaded a few PUP Packs. This isn't my core competency quite yet. So we'll do another video on just doing a PUP Pack, but it's a lot of the same workflow. Again, setting up your drop-in asset folder, hugely functional. Makes life a whole lot easier when you're working inside, loading up all these tables. All of these tables have been loaded using VPin Studio and this awesome tool. Shout out again to the guy that codes it. We really do appreciate everything you're doing because I know it's a ton of time and effort for a hobby. So thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it, everybody. And I hope this has brought some value.